What's up everyone, here is Ale from Boutique Tones and welcome back to another deep dive episode. Today we'll focus on the BT PT50, which is based on the custom audio amp built with Pete Thorne himself. As you can see, we're using the Tonics interface as we usually do. This preset pack contains 12 different presets, which are divided in clean, driven and high gain tones. So let's get right into it. Starting off with the first clean preset, which is called BT PT50A. It's a clean preset and it sounds like this. So, as you heard, it's a very excited, I will say, clean tone. And that's the reason I want to make a little disclaimer right from the beginning. All our preset pack have been built around a specific use case scenario. Like, for example, now I'm having this configuration, HS, like humbucker and single coil, because I'm using the BT PT50, which has been built around the needings of Pete Thorne, which usually have like one humbucker and two single coil. And these allow me to plug the guitar straight into the preset pack and have a pleasant sounding tone, like. But that doesn't mean that if you have a different guitar with different pickups configuration, you cannot achieve the same tone. You simply have to dial a little bit more into these knobs and into these parameters and change them in order to accommodate the pickup which is pushing the signal into the preset pack. For example, this clean tone is very pushed. It's towards the breakout point of the amp. And if I use an humbucker, I'll give you an example. I'll swap it in a second. Let's say that I have this guitar, which is an ESP with two EMG pickups, humbuckers. Definitely is not going to be sounding the same because it's already very cranked clean tone. And if I use this guitar, and it oftentimes happens that people panic when they don't get the same sound from the get-go, but it just depends from the fact that you can tweak these knobs and go towards that direction. For example, I'll need for sure to decrease the grain, maybe I'll need to compensate adding some volume, and then I might need to reduce the mids and crank the treble a bit, crank the presence a bit more, and much better than it. And of course, consider also using these advanced settings in here, or it depends also by the device you're using. You can always have some sort of fine-tuning EQ, whether you want to use compression or add some compression from here, some reverb, you can definitely do that. So yeah, don't panic, don't get crazy if it doesn't sound the exact same way. There's always a reason. Remember that it really depends from the guitar you're using and the type of signal that is getting into the preset that makes a big difference. So always use all the equipment you have and all the tools you have over here to shape the sound towards the tone that you're looking for. Back to this configuration, let's hear once again the first clean tone so we have an idea. The second one. So definitely borderline clean tone. Probably is the use case of this preset. It's more towards arpeggios or small leads. It's very nice and cranked up clean tone. Maybe adding some delay and reverb, we can achieve great sounding tone. Let's see. It's a very nice sounding preset. has a lot of colors. That depends on the dynamic you're using to play or how hard you pick, if you use a pick. Very nice. So let's move on to the first driven preset. I mean, you get the vibe, right? Once you have a slightly driven tone alongside with a single coil, it's very hard to avoid playing something like I just did. So that's it. Moving on to the second driven tone. Let's stay on this pickup. Previous one. It definitely screams much more. Is way more open on the high end. Time for the third driven preset. Very interesting and nice preset. I will use that personally probably as a main tone because it serves very different purposes. Let's say that I have this configuration, so I can use the humbucker to achieve some growly and solid crunch tone. And then I could just use the single coil and roll off the volume a bit to achieve some nice sort of clean tone. This is probably the best starting point to just tweak and get your own sound. Okay, moving on. The next one, fourth driven preset, which is the BT PT50D, which sounds like this. Definitely way more saturated, but also a lot of fun. We have two driven preset left, so let's move on to the BT PT50D2, which sounds like this. You see, like changing pickups, you have a lot of difference, and this time particularly, it's very, very dirty. So we can just adjust maybe some presence and some treble. Very interesting sound. Okay, time to move on to the last driven preset, which sounds like this. Also very nice maybe to use alongside with some delay and get some nice warm lead tone out of this. Maybe reducing the beat, the treble, and presence, because of course when you go to single notes, then those tend to be a bit harsh. And it's fantastic because it's not too distorted. It's a nice and creamy mid-gain lead tone. We can also try to switch the single coil. Maybe rolling off the volume a bit. Time to move on to the first high gain tone where things get serious, and it sounds like this. Very compressed, very sustained, but also very warm, I would say. So I wouldn't use it for a rhythmic being very warm. Probably it's not super tight. It's a bit fuzzy when you have this type of richness on the single notes. Maybe it's not shaped EQ-wise towards something rhythmic oriented. I would rather use it for a solo, maybe adding some delay if you want, or we can go a bit crazier and adding some modulation and chorus. Yeah, definitely. Having that roundness and that richness that pushes the single notes, probably it's definitely better to be used in this application. So let's move on to the next one and see if it changes. Once again, previous one. So much tighter. So probably flip side, if we use this tone to play a solo, it's a bit too snappy and it's not as mellow, as warm as it was before. So every time we need to find a compromise, but when you tweak a single preset, you can just then save two different presets that serves two different purposes. So go ahead and try yourself and have some fun. Let's move on to the third one, which sounds like this. And I will say that's a great compromise in between the two tones. Oh, that was nice. Moving on, the very last one, which sounds huge. Why not? I will take the chance to play some nice leads and have some fun. Let's see. That was pretty much it. Guys, thanks a lot for sticking by. That was BT PT50. I'm Ale from Boutique Tones, and as always, please feel free to comment down below, ask us anything. We will love to build content around your needings. And yeah, that's it. Thanks a lot. See you on to the next one. Ciao.